These days, I am the soulful speaking coach for sensitive visionaries, ambitious empaths, and loving rebels because
Right.
they get up on a stage and they're frozen. They're trying to communicate their passion for the company
Yeah.
from a state of fight, flight, or freeze.
This episode is brought to you by Make More Creative. For the last couple of decades, Make More Creative has been helping entrepreneurs, artists, and businesses around the world find, shape, and share their stories so everyone gets it. From brand development and deployment to graphic design, motion graphics, artistic direction, mentoring, and all things creative, visit makemorecreative.com to see how they can help you share your story. Discover the power of soulful speaking with Lauri Smith on this episode of the RebelRebel Podcast. Learn how to tap into your authentic voice, manage empathy, and make an impact by doing things your way. Please welcome Lauri Smith of voice-matters.com to the Rebel Rebel. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I'm your host, Michael Dargie, and somewhere around the world, I might know where, is Lauri Smith. Lauri, how the heck are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm in San Francisco, California.
I knew it! I knew it! Home of one of my favorite improv theater companies, actually.
Which one?
Bats.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't actually, that's the only one I know. So
I think it actually is the only one in San Francisco. There's another one down in the South Bay called Comedy Sports, but they're more San Jose.
Oh.
But for people not from California, I'm not sure if they know the difference. So that's why I said which one.
Oh, fair enough. Well, Lauri, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Why don't we start here? Why don't we just jump right into what it is that you're doing now, and then we can, figure out what happened to get you here.
Yeah. These days, I am the soulful speaking coach for sensitive visionaries, ambitious empaths, and loving rebels.
Oh, yay.
Yay, rebels. All of them are people who are feeling called to speak, from TikTok to TED Talks and everything in between.
Very cool.
To create the change in the world or their world that they're here to create. And some of them would not go anywhere near a video camera or a stage if it weren't for that calling. Really? Others may have even found some success on the stage, and there's kind of an old industrial way that we were raised on for speaker leaders, and they have this feeling that that's a little icky or outdated, and that there must be more than this kind of canned, everybody doing it the same way thing. And in order to create the change they're here to create, they know they need that more. And that's where I come in.
Wow. So your website is voice-matters.com.
Yes.
And
yes.
And this is what you do. This is so cool. So sometimes I like to learn a little bit more about the moment that you're in, but I really want to go back first so that we can have some context for when we get there. How did this happen? Have you always been like a speaker leader? Is this how it's always been for Lauri?
No. And yes. I think at 5 years old, and maybe even earlier, I was one of those people who sort of came in knowing that I was here to do something.
Wow.
And then got told, don't be too big, don't be too much, don't take up too much space. Not by my family, oddly, mostly by kind of what the rest of the world was doing.
Yeah.
Don't be too emotional. And then grew up and did a lot of trying to guess what the world wanted me to be in order to fit in, and was never very good at that.
Uh-huh.
And in the middle here, fortunately for me, at about 7 years old, my mom found me talking to myself in our backyard.
Okay. Let's unpack that.
I had been playing like make-believe with some friends,
Okay.
and had my hair curled up in little pin curls because I was pretending to be Cindy Brady from the Brady Bunch. And kids being kids, they all went
Hilarious.
off to the pool.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'll be there when I finish the story, and was like finishing acting it out, all the parts, all by myself.
I love that.
And that's when my mom, it was actually in our garage in the backyard. She walked into the garage and found me and immediately took me to an acting class.
What?
And theater is what I call my first spiritual zone. Like many things in the world, there's a light side of theater and a dark side. So
Sure.
the dark side is what you see in movies like The Understudy, where it's about the competition and
Right.
jockeying for position. That's what you usually see in movies. And that does exist.
Sure.
And the light side of theater is a group of people who are present and connected in a way that a lot of the world isn't.
Yeah.
Like they can be with you through anything.
Yeah.
And I surrounded myself as I grew older and old, at 7, I was not aware of that. But as I grew older and like hit college, I was consciously surrounding myself with people who also embodied the light side of theater, and just kind of going, I'm not going to be friends with the people doing that other thing. I'm not going to participate in that other kind of thing.
Oh, good.
And at about 27, so 20 years later, I was working as an executive assistant in the corporate world because it was a way to fund my theater habit.
I know this story more than you know. Like I'm aware of this story. Love this.
That was awesome because I was getting a paycheck and health insurance, and there are so many personalities that you can study
Right. Oh,
as
yeah.
an actor, director, writer, while funding your acting habit.
So were you, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but were you like a professional actor? Are you community theater? Like what was that world, the duality?
It was, we liked to call it semi-professional, so
Okay.
not so far into community. I don't know. It's, probably an ego thing. There was a little bit of pay before something called AB5 took over out here,
Oh,
where
okay.
you would get varying levels of stipends that were not enough to live on, but it wasn't purely
Got it.
free just for
Right.
the fun of it.
Just for the love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Sorry. I just had to
yeah.
check that box in my head.
Yeah. And I did a couple of productions at the professional level, but I was not making a living at it.
Got it.
And I was getting this whisper from inside, it's time to give up your day job and go toward a more aligned life. And I was ignoring it, like we all do. And so there was a moment in my favorite acting class ever at the Sideways Studio in San Francisco, a lot like the Actors Studio, if anyone has ever seen the TV show Inside the Actors Studio. Intimate groups of people. So at that time, it was 12 people or less in person.
Love it.
And normally we would do scenes with one other person or maybe even 3 other people. So half of the class is watching you and the attention is divided. And on this one particular day, I was doing a scene all by myself and other people were jumping into it with me. But it was like, this is Lauri's exercise. And I kept putting on the emotional, I'm fine mask and armoring up in front of my heart in between these little vignettes. Mm-hmm. And as he did so often, so lovingly over the years that I worked with him, he stopped the exercise in the middle to give me a clue to actually get the value that the exercise was meant to give me.
I'm going to give you a note, Lauri.
Yeah. And it was whatever it is you're doing in between scenes, pulling yourself together. I don't know what that is, but stop doing that. And I said, I'm not that comfortable having everyone's eyes on me. And he said, well, then you've picked a strange set of careers for yourself.
Right.
I was doing some teaching and coaching at that point. I was doing some speaking. I was an actor who had chosen to be on stage.
Yeah.
So you've picked a strange set of careers for yourself. Part of you wants this. Part of you knows you're meant to be here. And it was like that 5-year-old in me that came in knowing I'm here to do something, heard him, and all my defense mechanisms and my ego and my inner critics. I deeply trusted him and the space that he held. So I leapt back in.
That's so good.
And, I was like actively releasing my jaw, trying to open my chest in front of my heart. And as the exercise continued, I would be crying in one moment and laughing and snotting all over myself the next. And I just kept going.
Wow.
And it felt like being in fire and ice at the same time.
Yeah.
And when the exercise was over, I looked out at my castmates and I felt like I could see and feel what kind of day every single one of them was having.
Wow.
And I now say it was my first moment of oneness that lasted beyond the acting. And that was not logical at the time, but it did lead me to saying yes to going to graduate school for acting, thinking I was going to be a starving actor and teacher in theater, doing that full time forever and for always.
Yeah.
And there were some other twists and turns that led me toward becoming a speaking coach.
Right.
And that thing of choosing to be seen and then actually tapping into our intuition and our own empathy even more, for me, is that's the ball game in speaking.
Wow.
We have to go through that choice and that authenticity doorway in order to get to soulful speaking, where we're resonating at a different level.
Wow. So are you a Meisner person, or are you like, is that in your world?
I am aware of Meisner and I do not use Meisner.
Okay.
Richard invented his own approach called the trigger approach. So I'm a trigger person.
Okay.
And from my perspective, it feels like trigger would not exist if Meisner had not come along first. And then Richard kind of went, that's close, but I don't think that's enough.
Yeah.
This is me making this up, probably not how he would say it. That's close, but it's not enough. And he invented something called the trigger approach, which is you don't memorize your lines by rote.
Yeah.
You identify for each thing you say what is triggering you, what thought out there, either said by another person or by yourself, is triggering each thought to happen.
Interesting.
And I've used that
cool
myself
method.
since 2001 or maybe even 1999. I'd have to look back.
Wow.
And I weave that into when I direct plays now. I weave that in, and I also created something myself that I call feeding in. So instead of the trigger approach can be very slow. And in order to kind of speed up the process a little bit, I'll have people feeding the actors. So the actors are standing on stage on like day 2 with no scripts in their hands. People are feeding them their lines so that they're moving around and listening and responding more like they will on opening night.
Yeah.
To kind of get it in their bodies in that way and block the show that way.
So cool. What a great organic way to block a show.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about voice matters and about what you bring to these people, because I'm fascinated by it, because and let me just sort of back up a step. So I do some teaching and mentorship around like pitch delivery, because I found that a lot of people that pitch, they have no theater training. They're crammed up against the back of the stage or the curtain because they're scared. And they're unsure of where they should be on the stage when they're delivering it, unless they have the TED Talk mat to stand on. But I'm fascinated by this approach that you can help people find their voice and then use theater um, aspects to help them, I don't know, illustrate those stories better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to like really dig in and learn more about that because I think it's cool.
Yeah. I center it all around the breath in some ways. The breath is kind of the heart. The base is having an intention that is emotional or energetic that's actually for the audience.
Yeah.
And there's an invitation. So, intend, align, invite are the three words I usually start asking people to repeat like a mantra. Intend is setting the intention for what you want to happen energetically or emotionally.
Yeah.
And if it were a pitch situation like yours, it's not, my intention is to get them to give me money.
Yeah. Right.
It might be, my intention is to create excitement
Yeah. Or inspire
or inspire or curiosity,
yeah.
which is related to, if they're inspired, they're more likely to give you money. We think everyone makes their decisions with their brain,
Oh, yeah.
but they don't. And I talked to a VC early in the life cycle of Voice Matters, and he said, well, if I've given the first round of funding, I'm always sitting there going, oh God, is anybody else going to give this guy money?
Right.
When they see them speak, because
Right.
they get up on a stage and they're frozen. They're trying to communicate their passion for the company
Yeah.
from a state of fight, flight, or freeze, which
Right.
is not our highest, most charismatic selves.
100%.
Aligning is aligning the body, the breath, and the energy for this full, more resonant expression,
Yeah.
which very much comes from the theater. My history in the theater with speaking coaches and acting coaches and voice coaches, and some yoga and mindfulness, all kinds of sports. I use Steph Curry metaphors all the time because there's a way of being vibrant and alive with our speaking voice that is actually beyond most people's imagination. It's part of that thing that people will see in a speaker and say, they're so charismatic. They have that
Right.
thing that some people have, air quotes, and some people don't.
Yeah.
And in reality, we're all born with it. We just suppress it, like I did with the emotional
Mm.
mask, jaw tension, and the
Yeah.
armor in front of my heart.
Right.
So my process is helping them to reawaken the kind of resonance that makes your hair stand up on end that we all had when we were babies that then got trained out of us.
That's so good. That's so good. I've thank you for doing that work. The world needs more of that.
Thank you. I love
Uh,
it. I love it.
yeah, clearly. So are you doing any plays right now?
I am. I still do theater. It's still primarily a semi-professional with an occasional professional level thing thrown in.
Okay.
I'm just about to close the one that I directed at our little theater company in Berkeley called Theater Lunatico. It's in the basement of a pizza joint.
Nice.
Um, and that
Classic.
feels like three in a row. I did something in the fall and something in the winter, and I'm really ready for a break
Yeah.
before I do another one this fall.
Oh, that's cool. I did 5 shows in a row last year through Loose Moose Theater. So I directed 2, performed in 3. And when we hit the new year, I was like, yeah, I need a break.
Yeah,
It takes a lot out of you, but it fills you, but it takes a lot.
it does. Yeah. And the one that I just directed is one of the highlights of my life, and several of them, the people in it have said the same thing, and some of the people that have come to see it have said this is the one of the best Lunatico shows ever. So it's
What is
all
it?
very fulfilling and rewarding. It's a show called The Revolutionists by
Okay.
Lauren Gunderson. 4 women in 1793. 3 of them are real historical figures, and one
Yeah.
of them is kind of an amalgamation character that's also based on an idea called La Marianne, La Marianne Noire, which is a new symbol of freedom in France now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, so you directed it, or you in it,
Yes,
or
I
both?
directed this one. Oh, I would not be in one that I directed personally unless
Yeah,
there was
okay.
some kind of an emergency.
Yeah.
Knock
Oh,
on wood.
that's so great. Well, congratulations. And when does it? When are you done?
This Sunday, June 9th, is the final performance.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
kick
you.
ass. What are you guys going to do for a cast party?
We're going to strike the set and have pizza from the pizza joint. I think that's the plan. Pizza
Yeah,
and gluten-free pizza and maybe some salads and things like that for
very
those of us who
nice.
don't love pizza. I do love pizza, but I should either eat pizza with gluten-free crust or
Hmm.
pizza with crusts that are not heavily processed.
Right. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
Um, let's do a little side shuffle. So you're walking in your favorite. I don't know if you're a walker. Are you a walker? Do you walk?
I'm a big walker. I
I
love walking.
okay, cool. I had this feeling. So let's say you're in San Francisco, and let's say you're, oh gosh, okay, using my brain. Seal Walks. Seal Walks, is that a place?
Not well, there's a place where people go to see seals at
Oh,
Fisherman's Wharf.
Presidio Loop.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a place? Okay, I
I
don't
think
know.
so.
What's your favorite place to go walking? Let's do that. I'll stop trying to be
I
clever.
so I have probably two. I live right across the street from Golden Gate Park. Like
Uh,
there's a gas station. I'm looking out the window, and then trees and a ball field. So that's one of them.
Nice.
Love going to walk in Golden Gate Park. And then the other is in Guerneville, California. There's a park called Redwood National Park.
Oh yeah.
That's another one of my favorite places to go walking.
So here's Lauri walking through Redwood National Park,
Mm-hmm.
and she's sitting there like just cruising along, thinking about stuff in the universe, and noticing all the things that she does because she's I don't know if you're a playwright. I feel that you probably are as well. Director, performer, voice coach, in tune with the universe, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, "Oh, I just wish the world knew this one thing." What is the one thing, Lauri, that you wish the world knew?
Mm. That humanity is like one big orchestra, and we're trying to raise human consciousness, some of us, and the voices that we actually need to hear from are like, say, the string section of the orchestra,
Yeah.
and they've been silent. So the drums are beating louder in order to try to make up for the wisdom that we need from the silent string section. And what we actually need is all of the soulful voices playing full out and knowing that speaking is part of raising human consciousness. It's not just a head thing. Once we're doing that work of raising human consciousness through soulful speaking, and all the voices are in the conversation, that's how we're going to reach global harmony, not by the drums banging louder.
I like that. I like that a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what's Lauri's guilty pleasure? What's the thing that you do just for you?
the first the first thing that popped into my head was chocolate. Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. And I'll pair
Uh-huh.
that with uh, TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes.
Um,
100% yes.
yeah, that's so eating chocolate while watching an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I have not watched episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a
Mhm.
while. Which incidentally, in the director's notes for the play that I just directed, it says one of the things that I loved about it was the dialogue was witty and fast. It's not 1793 style dialogue. It
It's like,
sounds more like Buffy or The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
oh, that's cool. All right, okay, so Spike or Angel?
Oh, Mostly Angel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Although it became tough by the end because I really love the character of Spike.
Yeah, me too.
What
Me
about
too.
you, Spike or Angel?
I think Spike, like I'm Team Spike for sure.
Mm.
Um, for so many different reasons. But yeah, I absolutely adored that show,
Yeah.
and I love the writing. I love the musical episode. Because bunnies, come on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god. Yeah, and I mean that was Joss at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I think that's really great. So Dark Chocolate and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. And I
Did you?
think my favorite episode is probably Hush.
Oh my god, that was so good. I just got
Or, yeah,
chills
the
thinking
one
about
that
that.
is kind of connected to what I do for a living is definitely Hush. It's really hard to pick a favorite episode.
Oh yeah, yeah. And actually, until you mentioned that, yep, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that was big
Yeah.
and small, but so small.
Yeah.
Very cool. Did you watch the movie, like the movie ahead of time uh, with Paul as the vampire who like, oh, he died? No.
I did not. I think I saw it at some point. Like I was aware when it came out. I actually didn't even watch Buffy until I think between seasons 5 and 6.
Oh.
I watched a couple episodes and told a friend of mine that I had discovered it, and she brought them out one weekend, and we did like a marathon of seasons 1 and halfway into 2, just sitting there on like a beautiful summer weekend, but we were just stuck. And I remember her watching me watching it because she had seen it all
Mm.
already. And over the years, I've done the same thing where I'll introduce someone else to
Oh.
it and then sit there watching their reactions as they're watching it.
Yeah, especially when Dark Willow comes along. I imagine that's a moment.
Yes. I was Dark Willow for Halloween once and I won the contest.
Is it because you're bored now? Bored now.
Bored now. It was because I got blood red creepy contacts. So I won the contest for scariest.
Yeah,
And I,
100%.
did some makeup on my face to make it look white. My hair was, did I have a wig then? I can't remember if it was my own hair or a wig that I owned. Um,
Wow.
Black leather pants, black top, but it was the eyes. It was getting the blood red colored, like black blood, black
Mm-hmm.
red contacts. That's what won the contest for me. Because some people had
Damn.
no idea what Buffy was or who I was, but I wore those contacts that I could actually see through. They were prescription blood red contact.
Wow.
That's what won the contest for me. I probably spent more on the contacts than I won in the contest, but I'm so competitive, I did not care.
That's amazing. Okay, talk to me about other things that you're competitive in.
Oh, um, I probably have, well, you name it. Board games, if I play them. I probably check it a little now, but I channel it into sports. And I, fortunately or unfortunately, I met my now husband in 2016 and got pulled into the Warriors. I used to play basketball and stayed away from it for years because if you know anything about mirror neurons, um, right after I graduated from high school, I'm only 5'4.5", so it was not going to be a college thing or a pro thing for me.
uh,
But I couldn't watch sports back then because it would feel like I played the game.
wow.
And when I met him in 2016, he was watching the Warriors, so we had like a text date where I texted him and he was watching the Warriors and I turned it on and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of fun and it's not as tiring as it used to be 25 years
Interesting.
ago." And that was a really interesting time to get on the Warriors bandwagon. So I was texting with him as they were losing the championship in 2016.
Yeah.
And then they had the Kevin Durant years. So I was very competitive and like wearing Warriors clothing and going and changing it as if like my lucky outfit is the reason they're not winning certain games. And for anyone who's not a sports fan, their dynasty, their dynastic era is pretty much over, although some of us think maybe they have like one more left in them.
Yeah.
But I read an article that said the dynasty actually ended in 2019 when one of the major players got hurt. And the other one that they won in 2022 wasn't part of the dynasty. It was just a one-off. Lots of teams have one-offs. They
Wow.
don't go to the finals for 8 years in a row.
Right. Yeah.
So I get competitive even though I'm not the one on the court
Hilarious.
playing.
Talk to me about being an empath.
What do you want to know about being an empath?
Well, I want to know how, and I am just reaching here because I'm picking up what you're laying down, and I feel that you probably have huge empathic um, traits,
Yes.
especially with mirror neurons. That to me reads like, oh, you are. How do you manage that, keeping that emotional distance?
Yeah. Lots of yoga. Um, One of the things I take time for myself, whether it's yoga or meditation. I'll do things when I'm walking down the street, about to walk through kind of a crowd that doesn't feel so great.
Uh,
A theta healer many, many years ago told me if you like zip up your energy, it's like you're keeping out what doesn't serve you. And that once you've done that, you can just gesture and move your hair with the intention of, I'm protecting myself in this
Interesting.
situation. Those are some of the ways. Um, when we get into acting and speaking, one of the things that I've found for myself and others is in that desire to hide or keep ourselves safe, we might pull our own energy bubble in so that it's really small.
Yeah.
And if you've ever done that thing where you imagine energy between your hands and you bring your hands together and
Yeah.
it gets more intense, when we make our own energy bubble small, it actually makes whatever we're feeling much more intense.
Right.
If we expand our energy to the edges of a space, particularly when we're on stage talking, speaking, or acting, it doesn't feel as intense. It feels juicy, like these are paint colors I can
Yeah.
create from. Whereas if we're keeping it really small, which is usually our first impulse, it's like, I got to hide from this.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm going to be the air conditioner. I'm going to spread my wings and hug the room with my energetic arms and transform the vibe in this auditorium.
That's an interesting way to look at it because being on stage, it's an energy transference that
Yeah.
happens all the time. We get to take in from the audience and give back, and it's this beautiful orchestration. That's an
Yeah.
air conditioner. I love that.
Yeah. That's why live theater and live speaking, because that happens in sports in a very different way. If you go watch a game live in a stadium,
Yeah.
you can feel, say in basketball, it's called a game of runs. So one team will go on a 15-0 streak, and then the other team will go on a 15-0 run. And when you're there live, you can feel they
Right.
have all of the momentum. You can feel it in the crowd. And it's
Right.
like
It's a thing.
somebody's got to override that to get it to turn back the other direction. In theater, supposedly people's hearts start to pulse together when they see a theater show together.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That is cool. Oh, yeah, I feel like I could talk to you forever. I
Me
love this
too.
so much. Are those? I feel like on your back wall behind you,
Mm-hmm.
your right is like maybe there's some version of Cocapelli.
Yes.
Am I hitting that?
You're hitting that. My mother lived for many years toward the end of her life in Arizona. And that is a piece of art that I inherited from her. There are two. There's one in the bedroom, and then those.
Love it. I like they've got microphones. That's so
They
cool.
do
I mean,
look
maybe they're
like they have
maracas, but
microphones.
I'm going to say microphones because you're a
Yeah,
speaker.
they're going to be microphones for now. I've never thought of that before, but now they're going to be microphones forever.
Yeah, because as a speaker, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So Dark Chocolate, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Redwood Forest. What is? And you don't have to answer this, but I hope you do. What's one thing that people just don't know about you?
Wow, I kind of put it out there so much. What is it that some people don't know about me? Because authenticity is a value, and
Yeah.
so I'm kind of trying to put it all out there all the time. And now everybody knows about Buffy.
The world knows about Buffy.
I know people probably know this, but this probably isn't the one that I talk about the most. I just released a quiz about the soul suckers, which is my name for the inner critics that suck the soul out of the voice.
Yeah.
And at times, at a few times in life, people have had like the new I'll never be as good as Lauri soul sucker.
Yeah.
So I will share, I still have them myself. And I do talk about that a little bit from time to time in posts and things like that. And I feel like sometimes we can look at somebody from the outside at the end of the story or where they are now and not be aware that at times they may have their own soul sucker in their head saying, no one cares what you have to say.
Right.
And even I, at times, have this voice going, no one cares. Maybe I should give up and just go get a job at the coffee house around the corner. And part of the process of living life as spiritual beings or souls, having a human experience, is to choose our souls and move that voice saying no one cares to the back seat. And when I was writing my book many years ago, about 10 years ago now, I said there's a kernel of truth to all of the soul suckers' messages except that below the belt bastard that says no one cares. And someone in a group that I was leading at the time said, I beg to differ. And if you know anything about improv, there's this golden rule of improv called yes and, even though on the inside I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to rewrite that whole chapter of my book. And I said, tell me more.
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, the kernel of truth isn't that no one cares. It's that somebody somewhere doesn't or didn't care what you have to say. And I immediately put it in the book because I probably had someone in my past that I ran up to with excitement as like an 8-year-old and nobody cared.
Yeah. Nobody.
That triggered, nobody in the room that I ran into. And the kernel of truth that is really useful for speakers is if you speak to a crowd of 100 people, there's probably going to be at least 30 in that room that don't care about your topic. They got brought by their spouse or their friend, and they're not your people. So don't focus on them. Focus on the ones that are already leaning in and picking up what you're putting down.
I love that. And I got a little segue. Talk to me about the power of an audience member nodding you in. Is that a thing that you're aware of?
No, but tell me.
Well, so like I did a talk just this last week to a group, and I've been aware of this phenomenon, I guess throughout my career, but I don't know. I just noticed it and I paid attention to it this time more than ever before. And I really there's people in the crowd, whether they do it consciously or not, that will nod in a speaker. So when you say something, their head does this. And the power that gives you as a speaker, if you can connect to somebody where you get that is a trail marker, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I've never used the phrase nodding you in. I may have to borrow it now.
It is yours.
Yeah. I have told people to focus on the kindred spirits first.
Yeah.
And if we're setting an intention to shift the room, the irony is that often at least 50% of the room doesn't look like what we're wanting for the world when we start, because
Right.
they need us. Some do, and they do that nodding in because they're kind of already on board. They're being reminded of something that
Yeah.
they already know, either on a soul level, or it's like the sixth time that they've gotten this message in their life. So
I
they're
get
more
it.
open when you're starting. They're going, yes, yes. And it's almost a yes, thank you for reminding me. Thank you
Yeah.
for awakening this within me. And then there are others with, like, you know, the body closed off and the hair in front of their eyes
Yeah.
that are in their own resistance.
Right.
If
Fighting it out.
Fighting it out on the inside. And if our soul suckers are in charge and are thinking things like, I hope I don't make anybody angry, I hope I don't forget what I'm saying, I hope I don't bore people to death. If that part of us is unconsciously in charge, we're gonna see that and then create more of it.
Yeah.
Whereas if we've set that intention, we're gonna notice the nodding, and then we're going to notice the people who were crossed off start to kind of open,
go forward in their
and
chair,
eventually lean in and like erupt into a standing ovation when we're done speaking.
Sometimes I try to make sure that when I'm an audience member, I try to make sure that I give I try to give that, and I only just really become hyper aware of it recently. So that's great. I love that. You are something else. I enjoy this conversation so much.
Me too.
There are people in the world, and maybe there are people that are just about to try to find their voice. Maybe it's people that are like, I'm going to do this thing that I've never done before. I call these people rebels in waiting. They're and my favorite way to paint this picture is it's Wile E. Coyote just stepped off the cliff, looked down, and realized there's nothing below his feet, and he holds up a little "oh no" sign. What advice do you give to those rebels in waiting who are about to embark on this adventure?
Do it your way. That's what popped into my head.
I love that.
It's very, yeah.
Keep going.
It's very tempting, especially because of how and when we were raised and this world that we live in, to think that there's some other way we need to be in order to get our message out.
Yeah.
Rather than we are here to bring the message and the change in the world that we are here to bring. And we can't do that mimicking somebody else or copying their style or copy pasting their speeches. There's a way for each of us to do it that is doing it your way. And particularly for the rebels that are jumping off the cliff like Wile E. Coyote, because they're doing that because they know that their way is part of the puzzle. So stick to it. Do it your way. Hire people that help you do it your way, not people that are going, here's my template for how you can make your mark in the world. Because their template isn't your template.
Oh, Lauri Smith, voice matters. This has been so much freaking fun. Thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've had a great time too.
When you're ready to find, shape, and share your story with the world, visit makemorecreative.com and book your discovery call. Use the code RebelRebel and get 50% off your first session. Whether you're just starting out, about to pivot, or just need to fill your funnel, Make More Creative is your new superpower. I've been your host, Michael Dargie, and this has been the RebelRebel Podcast. It's a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs all over the world. And hey, if you're a rebel or you know a rebel, why don't you head on over to the RebelRebelPodcast.com and fill out our guest request form. Share or subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And thanks so much for listening. Until next time.